The CBN has said, yes, it is not totally against, your protest. But looking at the figure, the likely figure that the banks may lose with this protest if it does go ahead successfully, about 2.39 billion naira in one day. Would that be counterproductive? And according to the CBN, why not, resort to complaint departments of the banks, where you can resolve this issue rather than actually go out there and protest?
The issues that we're complaining about are institutionalized now. It's not just one-off. You see, consumer complaints are supposed to handle one-off complaints because you are not expecting that it will be a mass complaint. You are expecting that, okay, most people are okay, just one or two who have one issue or the other. This is prevalent amongst the majority of the banking customers. The ones who don't talk may look at it and say, how can I go and start wasting my time chasing an extra 100 naira? But check that 100 naira over millions of customers as they charge it. That's a lot of money. Now, you said the banks stand to lose that amount of money. I am not apologetic to them because if we go by the CBN's own admission, that in 2015 alone, investigating 6,000 complaints, they made the banks refund 6.2 billion illegal charges. The 3 point whatever they may stand to lose today, which may not happen because most Nigerians may not comply, but whatever significant number that chooses not to go to the bank would have sent a signal to them. So that 6.2 billion is still within the margin of what they were stealing before anyway. So if they lose it, is that Nigerians are getting back their money. They are holding back their money. The essence of calling for a boycott today is for us to not allow them one day to charge us this excessively, because all these excessive charges day in, day out is becoming unbearable for the average Nigerian consumer. Whether poor or rich, it doesn't make any difference because they charge this thing based on scale. The people who have the access to be able to complain to CBN are probably the big companies and the big owners who lose a lot of money. Because how many consumers who lose 100 naira here, 200 naira there, 90 naira there, 40 naira there, is going to get to CBN to go and complain, and then CBN will put all his machinery in place to change that. What we are wanting the CBN to do, this is one of the reasons why we call for this boycott, because the boycott is drawing attention to the issue, and that's a success for us already. What we want CBN to do is to be more proactive, because these charges that we're talking about are prevalent. It doesn't, if I were the CBN, at the time when I checked last year and I saw that 6.2 billion was illegally taken from consumers, that's a red flag. That's enough for me to say there's something going on in this industry. And then you call for an audit of all the banks' schedule of fees. How do they charge? The inspection department of CBN, how many times does it just go randomly to check what the banks charge their customers for what, to ensure that they're complying? Do you know that just yesterday, the CBN also put out a report in the leadership newspaper that they are going to make banks refund excessive charges they already made on stamp duty. This is stamp duty that was just, it's not even a month old.
Duty, yes.
It's not a month old. And CBN is already acknowledging that the banks are excessively charging their customers because, according to CBN, the modalities for how they were supposed to charge this money was not even ready. So the banks have just gone ahead and just been charging arbitrarily, charging on savings account, charging on current account, charging on it's supposed to be on deposits. They charge on withdrawals. And they even charge, somebody told me yesterday, the bank said they charged her 50, it was supposed to be 50 naira stamp duty. When she actually did her calculations in her account, she found that it was 5,000 naira they took out. A lot of consumers, I'm telling you,
How do you substantiate some of these claims? So
I was just going to tell you that many of these consumers will take, I have loads of the pictures. They will take pictures of either their statement of account or the text messages they received or the on screen of their accounts and forward it to us. Some even put it out there on Facebook to show that this, I'm not making up this story. This is what the bank just charged me for this. These things need to stop. Somebody needs to get in there and clean up that system for majority of Nigerians. Then, if we now have one-off issues or complaints, then that can go through the complaint section. Have you tried to complain to a bank before? Most customers will tell you they are frustrated by that structure. The bank will not respond to your time. There's a customer who has included me on the thread of trying to get a bank to explain to him. He's just one of those dogged customers that I really appreciate. He's been on them to get them to explain the reason why 7,000 disappeared from his account without him being the one who used it. He must have sent almost like 6 or 7 mails as we speak over the last 3 weeks. I am on the thread. He put me in copy. So I am getting the responses, and half the time, because the bank will not respond, then he will send another one again. That's not good customer service.
I'll come back to these issues that you've just raised, but let me go to Aliyu Audu. Shola Salakodi mentioned something earlier, that it looks like we have a situation where the banks don't really reflect the prevailing economic situation of the country, where they actually declare massive profits, and people begin to wonder, where are these banks operating? Is it in the system? And like you said, their job really is to take care or feed the real sector, as against the practice that obtains right now. How is somebody doing their job, like the CBN, for example, or have the banks just been left to just do what they like?
Well, that's a good question. I think, first of all, the CBN has to increase the searchlight on banks, because, banks are being allowed to make unnecessary charges on customers, and that should not be allowed. Secondly, the TSA, the introduction of the TSA, the single treasury account, was to remove public sector funds away from banks and move it to the central bank, so banks can really concentrate on proper banking services, which means that they have to now concentrate on the real sector and lend money. Now, if banks are supposed to do that in order to grow the economy and help the economy, not to be charging customers unnecessarily. Now, the last CBN administration under Sanusi, put in process a process that was supposed to abolish COT on all accounts in 2016. So customers are not supposed to be charged anything whatsoever from 1st of January this year. The idea behind that is to get banks, as I said before, to go into the real sector and lend money to people. Again, it's very important the CBN should increase its searchlight on banks, because we also have very high interest rates being charged to customers. That is what the banks should focus on. Reducing this double interest rate, if you go to a bank to borrow money now, you have to pay over 20-something%, up to almost 30%. That is not good. Banks should work very hard to reduce the interest rate to a single digit, so that people can actually come and borrow money from the banks and be able to pay back this money without having any problem. So the bank has more assignments on its hands than focusing past. Nigeria is moving into a new phase of development, and banks have to follow that. It's not all about sitting down and declaring 800 billion profit for banks, and that is it. You have to grow the economy, and the only way to grow the economy is by getting involved, providing the finance to people. The total lending in the agricultural sector is about 5%. Out of a population of 160 million, we only have 30 million bank accounts. So you see, the bank needs to go out there into the rural areas where there are no banks and establish their presence and take banking to the unbanked people, because a lot of the money in circulation right now is outside the banking system. 60% of that money is outside the banking system. The bank has to work harder and open branches into these areas and get the money, so that they can now use this money to lend to the real sector. The days of armchair banking has passed. The days of saying, my Mercedes is this big, or that my Mercedes is that big in the banking, has passed. We really have to get there. The bankers have to fold their sleeves and go out there and work hard, which is the policies that Sanusi introduced in the last CBN administration. No more COT, no more single treasury account. Banks use their money and invest in treasury bills and sit back and make safe money from other people's money. That should not be the case. The CBN should be stricter and restricts banks from investing in treasury bills. Banks should go out there and lend to the economy. If you go into banks today and you want to borrow money as a farmer, you cannot get that money. And that's a problem. So it's very important the CBN revises policies and encourage banks and put stringent policies that if you don't lend a certain amount of your demand deposits to the real sector, you'll be penalized. As a matter of fact, your banking license will be seized. This is what was introduced when the TSA policy was brought into place. If you don't transfer public sector funds back to the CBN, you'll be penalized. The same should apply to real sector
Aliyu
funds.
Audu, let me come back to my guest in the studio, Shola Salako. Last year, the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, himself actually said he did complain about some 5 trillion naira idle funds just, lying in the banks. Is it a reflection of the fact that the Nigerian bank has deviated from its original purpose of, doing banking business? Is this what we're seeing now?
Because it is more convenient for them. They make more money just pilfering from people's accounts. And you see, that tendency of pilfering is also one of the reasons why there will be an increase in the unbanked Nigerians belt very soon, because most people now would rather do their businesses outside of the bank.
And if the consumer or the customer loses confidence in the banking sector,
thank you.
How does that reflect? How will that affect the economy?
It affects the economy very terribly. In fact, right now, consumer confidence in the banking sector is at its lowest ebb. Just mention a bank, everybody shouts, they are thieves. Who wants to go and put their money where you feel that people take advantage of it? So we want the banking sector to wake up and do real banking. What is real banking? Encourage us with little or no charges. You must charge. We agree with that. But make your charges convenient in such a way that you would encourage even the unbanked to bring their money into the bank. It is when they bring that money into the bank that you have enough money to lend out to the real sector and help the economy grow. I heard, I don't know how true it is, that bank directors make up to 10% of the profits they declare every year after tax as bonus. So if that is an incentive, if it is true, I'm yet to confirm it, but if that is an incentive to the bank directors, why would they want to go out there and do the work to make the money when they can quickly cut here and cut there and take from this one and take from that one, and you can make the profit? We are not against you making profit. Everybody wants to make profit. That's what a capitalist society is about. But we want you to make the profit honestly, make it with integrity, make it with the confidence of the people you are transacting business with, so that they are confident that, oh, they are making money, I am making money. Why are Nigerians complaining? They are not making money. They go struggle so hard to find ways to make this money, because you will not make it easy for them to make the money by borrowing them the funds they need. But when they go loan the funds from friends, from family, from all kinds of places, and they make a little money, they bring it to you to say, okay, keep it for me while I think of what to do. As soon as that money enters the banking industry, you start to charge it.
And I'll be remiss if I don't mention this, which I have discussed in, on different platforms, the issue of setting a target, which the banks do, for their staff, where they make them, go out there to bring in some outrageous sum, in quote, according to some people. Is that something you want to look at apart from the consumer end of it?
Let me tell you, if the banks do banking the way banking should be done, they shouldn't have marketing staff going out to look for money. If they put products and packages that are attractive to consumers, they will come in here. As far back as 1990 or 92, when I was I said I'm a brand consultant, but when I was actively a brand consultant, I had written and advised banks about the fact that when you talk about bank products, consumerism, banks don't understand what consumers say. Omo does not go to be looking for people to buy it. They have packaged it because they found out what are the needs of the customer they want to attract. They've packaged all of that need into this package. Then they advertise it and say, this will supply your need, your need, your need. People know what they need. So if the banks go out and ask people, what are the needs that you have? And then you package products that provide that need, they will sit in their banks and people will come by themselves to bring money to them. Not the one that they put young girls out there and get them to get targets that give people high blood pressure and all of that. Not even talk about how they treat their staff. I don't want to go there because that's a labor issue. It's a major issue. But even for the consumers who are paying these bills, you collect money from people and then you use it to fund your waste. Who says the banks must have the kind of big, massive structures that they build to themselves? Is that necessary for banking? They are, I mean, if you go to other countries, banks
Absolutely.
can
in
be
a small room like
yes.
this. I mean, if you go to Volksbank in Germany, for example, it's just a small.
Yes, they can.
Yeah,
they
and
can, banking goes on there. Okay, you go to if you go to America, the banks inside grocery stores like the ShopRites and Co, and people do their banking right there and go, and everybody is okay. So must we build all these monuments to ourselves? And is it not? That is what I feel that what they claim to be costs are actually wastes. They need to cut down on those wastes.
And so, Aliyu Audu, how can we ensure that the banks, in the process of wanting to make profit, that the consumer is not at the receiving end, and cutting those wastes, some of these ways that Shola talks about?
I think one of those ways, one of the ways we can tackle this issue is from the regulatory point and from the consumer point, which is each and every one of us. So while we're expecting to carry out of regulating banks properly, we also have to do and encourage what Shola is doing, and creating sensitization to people that if you are charged, there's the customer protection department in the CBN which you should complain to and table your complaint, and your money should be refunded. Also, the CBN should increase their regulation on banks and be more strict on banks, because if you're too bank friendly, if the CBN is too bank friendly, then the banks will get away with overcharging customers. So it's important that the CBN should put in place policies and sanctions against banks that goes against those rules. Again, what we want banks to do is to focus on the real sector and lend and multiply the economy and stimulate the economy. We don't want banks, the days of big armchair banking has passed, and we really want that to pass. Okay. So banks should focus on reducing their interest rate, providing single-digit mortgage rates to their customers, and expanding their services to the rural areas where there are no banks, and so that we can provide.
Okay, Aliyu Audu, economist, talking to us about the No Banking Day. He's an economist speaking to us from Abuja. Of course, we want to say thank you very much for being a part of the show this morning. And finally, Shola Salako, he talked about consumer protection desk at the banks, at the CBN. How effective really is that? Before we round off.
Like I just said, the consumer protection desk at the CBN should be a complaint step of last resort. First, there must be preemptive consumer protection. That means you go into the system and ensure that the system is clean enough for majority of Nigerian consumers. That's what CBN is not doing yet. We need them to get more proactive and not just sit down and wait until consumer. How many millions of us complain to them about 10 naira that's been taken from our account? What would they do about it? Do you understand? They don't have the structures to be able to handle that level of complaint at a go. So prevent it by preempting it, making sure that you go looking in that sector and ensure that any ways in which the banks are overcharging, then you take that way out. And when they know that you come periodically to check what they're doing, they'll be forced to have to stay within the straight and the narrow way. That's one. Two, the Consumer Protection Department of the CBN needs to also do a lot of enlightenment. But many consumers don't even know. Until we started talking about this No Banking Day, people don't even know that they are being cheated. And they don't even know that even when they are cheated, they have a right to go and complain and insist. It's only a few Nigerians that are starting to come up and say, now this is the time to do it. So that's why we called this action. That today, nobody should go to any bank. Don't use your ATM. Don't do any online platform. Don't do anything with the banks today. So that they don't make any income today. Then they will understand how powerful the consumers are to their business.
Will
and
this
they will
action include some kind of legal action?
Oh, we have series. This is just the beginning. This is the first action. We watch what happens today. I mean, I don't even expect to have that much compliance because a lot of Nigerians are still trying to get used to what this is all about. But even if it is 5% that we comply, that is 5% less how much money they would have made today. That would hit their bottom line. They would have to pay attention. If they don't pay attention, we are going to have to call series of actions like this as we go until we get to the point where we are seeing a retraction of all these excesses. And Nigerian consumers are feeling comfortable enough. And we are also going to be calling on CBN to also reverse all these anti-inclusive policies of bringing back charges that have been eliminated. Once you take those charges away, the banks are forced to go and do real banking. But as long as you keep giving them, it's like you're mollycoddling them. You are giving them, you're bottle feeding them to always be making money. Everybody is struggling in this economy to make money by doing legitimate business. Let the banks also do that.
Is there a need to look again at the process of actually licensing some of these banks, and maybe that will...
I don't even want to get in there. So consumers are telling me that they would like to have a consumers bank because they are tired of these people who just only think about themselves. They only think about their own interests. So there are a lot of things that can come up out of here. But what we just want them to do is pay attention to what the consumers are saying. We say these charges are excessive. You need to sit down and review them. That's what a good customer service provider relationship is all about.
Shola Salako, thank you very much. Consumer
Thank you.
Advocacy, oh my God, Foundation of Nigeria.
I know.
All right, it's been nice talking with you, and I hope it's not just going to be about the charges alone, but the bank, consumers'
Services,
convenience,
contracts that are skewed to only defend the banks and never protecting the customer. All of it are what we're going to be looking at.
All right, we'll have to leave it there.
Yeah.